Welcome to Hallowed Groundling. I'm so excited for today's episode. This is the first in a monthly segment I will be doing on one of my favorite shows of all time, the original Twilight Zone. I have a very special guest on with me today, too. But before I get to today's episode, I'd like to let you know what's coming up. I also have a horror host show on YouTube called Hallowed Haunts, where my alter ego Elsa Rathbone and my darling husband, the world-renowned and slightly abominable Dr. Vincent Rathbone, host Films of the Macabre with our own wacky wraparound stories. The second episode of our second season will be dropping on December 5th. We drop a new episode every month. Please follow us on YouTube and on all of our socials under Hallowed Haunts. I will put all of the links in our show notes. And on December 12th, I will have a special holiday episode of the podcast where I will talk about some of my favorite holiday horror movies with a special guest. It should be horrific. I know you loved that. And with that business taken care of, let's get on with the show. There is a segment beyond that which is known to man. It is a segment as vast as these airwaves and as timeless as the internet. It is the middle ground between fandom and social media, and it lies between the pit of dissection and the summit of obsession. It is an area which we call the TZ segment on Hallowed Groundling. Hello and welcome to Hallowed Groundling. This is the first episode in a monthly segment I will be doing on one of my favorite shows of all time, the original Twilight Zone. I'll be breaking down one episode of the show at a time, and we are starting off right at the top with the pilot episode. But first, I'd like to introduce my very special guest today, Adam P. Cray. Adam is a producer, writer, director, and actor. In the late 90s, he created the slasher trilogy Mutilation, basing the films around the independent cinema he worked at. Adam has also produced music videos and short films, including Eye on Babette, Last Scene, and the Spanish-language short Alarma, which all premiered theatrically at the Sacramento Horror Film Festival. Adam and writer-producer Alberto G. formed the company Cinemixta, where they have produced the short films Snack Attack and Witch Hunt, spelled W-H-I-C-H, which I really love. Their first feature film, Where the Dead Go, has garnered several awards at film festivals across the country and is now streaming on Tubi. Adam is a dear friend who I have had the privilege of knowing for almost 30 years, and it is such a joy to have him on my first Twilight Zone segment on Hallowed Groundling. Adam, hi, how
Hey,
are
how's it
you?
going? Thanks for
Good.
having me.
Of course. I'm so excited to have you here today. I love it.
Excited
Um,
to be here.
yeah. So Adam, can you tell me a little bit about Cinemixta and your collaboration with Alberto?
Yeah. Well, I met Alberto G. Rodriguez when we worked together at Fox. We used to work together, and he worked in the tape room. I'd have to see him almost every day to go down and get tapes because I would quality control check the tapes, QC.
Hmm.
I'd QC the tapes, and then I would also put subtitles on them for airing in Latin America. So I would have to go down. I had a lot of interaction with him, and I mean, he was I mean, a nice kid. He was a young guy.
Mm,
I think he was pretty soon out of college when I met him.
yeah. He's younger than
It was
us. We're dinosaurs, so he's younger than us.
well, it's yeah. So yeah. So I mean, it's crazy. I mean, but the
Yeah.
the thing that struck me most about him is I didn't know he was a filmmaker for about a year. I mean,
Mm,
we'd have conversations, and not only was he a filmmaker, but he had had a feature film distributed out of college. So he had
wow.
produced it while in college, and so in a city where there's a lot of talkers in Hollywood and Los Angeles, there's a lot of people talking about, have ideas, and on the and then meeting Alberto, he's someone that already had a film made and wasn't talking about it at all. So it
Yeah.
was really so that kind of struck me, and that was so we just became friends, and
Mm,
we would meet for coffee quite a bit, and then we would meet. I was unemployed. I ended up getting laid off from Fox, and every Thursday we would get together and just watch a movie or two, and
mm.
we'd go to the nearby Mexican food truck, and we would grab ceviche. Each of us we'd always get the same thing. It was a ceviche mixta. So in Spanish,
Ah,
mixta is like a combination, or it's like a mixture.
yeah.
So we would always get a ceviche mixta, and it would have, octopus and shrimp and fish and crab meat and just, and they give you a lot
Yeah.
of food for like $5. So either way, we would take it back to my house and watch a movie or two and just kind of talk about the film. Very informal. And we did that for, I want to say, a year and a half. So long story short, we started working together. He had me act in a couple of his pieces, and one was Fear of the Night, and the other was called The Vanished, a feature called The Vanished, and it was just, I mean, he was just so much fun to work with, just as an actor, actor director. Me being the actor, him being the director, or being the producer, writer. So I don't know. So it was I think it was a very slow evolution of how we came together. And then uh, he made a movie with Eric Roberts called The Summoning. So we were meeting up one night, and he was going to give me a Blu-ray. He was all excited. He was going to give me a Blu-ray of The Summoning, and I was, excited, always excited to hang out.
Yeah.
He's one of these people that you could talk to every day, and I just about talk to him every day. So
Yeah.
it was cool. And we hung out that night, and he said, "Hey, I have this idea." And and it's basically written for for
Mm-hmm.
you to act in a feature. And he says, but it's going to be a stretch, it's going to take a while. And because life gets in the way, and I mean, we have schedules, we both had full-time jobs, so it was, so I said, sure, let's do it. And
Mm-hmm.
we went to it, we chipped away. I mean, we never crowdfunded or anything. It was all our time and our money,
Yeah.
and whatever we could do. And I mean, it took quite a while, but we finally pulled it off, finished it. And then I ended up moving out of LA and came back to Massachusetts, and the movie started getting into festivals. So we were in festivals in Texas, and then
Mm-hmm.
we were at the New Bedford Film Festival, and then we were at it played at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood at a festival, the Golden Gate
Wow.
Festival. So we just had enormous success with it. And
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, we kind of formed Cinemixta along the way, and
Yeah.
made it a partnership,
Mm-hmm.
and just had this mindset of diversity in stories
Mm-hmm.
and diversity in storytellers, and that's sort
Mm-hmm.
of our motto. So we want to try and tell stories in a different way than what we've seen before,
Yeah.
and not necessarily something that can be labeled.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with the people that the actors that work with us in front of camera, and the crew.
Mm-hmm.
We want a diverse bunch all around. So
Yeah.
that was our mantra. It has been our mantra, and we still, we made a couple of shorts. He wrote them in LA, and I filmed them here. Witch Hunt and Snack Attack. So
Yeah.
those were a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we're just moving forward. I mean, we have a slate long enough to last us the next 10, 20 years. So plenty of
That's
stories to
wonderful.
tell.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's funny. It sounds like, he's one of those people. I'm always attracted to these kind of people as artists who they aren't as verbose as most people are. Like they don't talk about how great they are constantly. And it's sort of like they're not busy doing that self-promotion. You do have to do it. You have to hustle. I mean, as an artist, you have to hustle. But also that I'm attracted to those people that are sort of kind of quiet about the things that they do in a way because they're guarded for whatever reason. I kind of am attracted to people like that. I want to know why they're like what they're guarding and why they're guarding it, And it's usually a good reason. It's usually because either they're, I suffer from, imposter syndrome. I real bad. Like I'm one of those people who's like, why did they let me do this? Why am I here? Like when I started teaching college, I was like, who let me do this? Who put me in charge of all these children? Like what are they thinking? So I'm attracted to people like that. And it sounds like Alberto is that type of person in a way, that kind of
Yeah,
like,
yeah, definitely. And a humility, I think that you don't, a creative humility that you don't always see in
mm,
filmmakers. And I
right.
I think that's wonderful.
Hmm.
And I mean, working with him in pre-production and then production and post, there was always this level of, what do you think? How can we make the project better? So it wasn't always about how he envisioned it. It was really, it was I feel like it was a true collaborative,
Yeah.
and that's wonderful. I mean, if I come onto a project as a producer, I want that collaboration where we put
Hmm.
the project first. It's not
Right.
about my idea, your idea, their idea. It's about the film, and our
Hmm.
ideas mixed.
Yeah.
That mixta again, that
Yeah.
mixta.
That's
Um,
great. I
yeah,
love it. I didn't know where the name came from. That's so wonderful. I love when they
yeah,
come from that kind of like homegrown type of
yeah.
relationship. They
Oh
come from
yeah.
that.
I mean, and that's what we ended up calling our meetings after a while. It was
Hmm.
just because we got the ceviche mixta and we watched some cinema. So when it came time to name the company, I said, bro, there's only one.
Perfect.
There's only
Yeah,
one
you
name for
had
this
it
film.
already. There wasn't too
Mhm.
deep of a thought. Yeah, I know. I
Right,
love
right.
that. Oh, I love that idea. All right, can you tell me a little bit about your feature film that you did with him, Where the Dead Go?
Yeah, I mean, Where the Dead Go, it was basically birthed that night.
Hmm.
It was at not Mel's, Norm's Diner in La Cienega, close to Beverly
Mm.
Hills.
Hmm.
And yeah, he pitched the idea to me, and I just thought it was great. It was very Taxi Driver, very 70s, sort of a slow burn, um, and a mix, very much a mix of genres, and that's what I loved about it. It was just very experimental, and
Hmm.
we just at first we did some camera tests just to see if we could actually get away with it, how the image would look, and how so
Yeah.
it was, so just as everything else, we eased into it,
Yeah.
and everything was looking great and feeling great. So we just kept plugging, and we would film, like I said, when we had the time and money, and then of course the pandemic hit. I mean, we were getting ready to film our final act, our third act, and the pandemic hit,
Yeah.
and so we took about I think a year and a half off,
Mm.
and then he got COVID certified for COVID safety. So we
Mm.
just went back at it, and it ended up creatively sort of reshaping how things were going to play out. So I feel like in filmmaking and in life, we just kind of you have to roll with it sometimes.
Yeah,
And
yeah. A lot of adapting happened during COVID. We're going to talk a little bit about COVID during this too,
yeah,
because I think this first episode of Zone is definitely something that calls into that time period, that crazy time period that we all went through.
oh, definitely,
We all adapted as artists. Like I think we all had to figure out a new way to function, a new way to work, a new way to do everything. To still be able to express ourselves, in the best way
yeah,
possible and safely.
totally.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. All right. So can you tell us a little bit about From the Window, your short From the Window, which I do have some questions about, but I want to hear a little bit about how that came to be and what you're doing with it.
Yeah, I mean, it was during a very tough time. My father was in the ICU. He had suffered from COPD and Parkinson's, so he was hooked up to breathing, but he couldn't
Yeah.
he couldn't speak. He couldn't speak, but he communicated with us through writing. So during that time, yeah, I mean, heartbreaking. I mean, to
Yeah.
say the least. It was tough. And one time I went in to see him one morning, and he had written me a note, um, and it said, "Are you filming today?" And I was like, Dad, are you crazy? I'm like, of course I'm not filming. Like, with the situation and everything. But
Right.
he was, to me, it was like he was telling me, like, okay, don't forget what you're supposed to
Yeah.
be doing. Don't,
Yeah.
he's always looking over my shoulder. He's right up there.
Yeah. Full disclosure for everyone listening, I've known Adam a very long time, and his dad was just one of the most lovely people ever. Super supportive, super kind, super warm and welcoming to all of Adam's friends. Like we all invaded his house all the time, and he
Thank
was
you.
just always such a lovely guy. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
and I can see that it's such a lovely moment, and I can see him saying that to you. Like I can totally see him, being like, "Go film. Don't be here."
Yeah. Don't worry
Yeah.
about me.
Yeah. And which is
Yeah.
crazy, just yeah. But so From the Window came from that whole
Yes. Okay.
situation.
Yeah. No, it was, I after he passed, of course we had a lot going on with the funeral, and and my grandmother, that had been her only child. So I actually went and delivered her the news, and she was, of course, devastated, and it was a rough time. But so we were getting her situated with some care, my stepmother Vicky and I, and just trying to figure things out, because this was going to be the new normal.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I'm like I gotta remember what Dad told me to do, and get
Yeah.
get filming again. So I had this idea and this concept. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen From the Window, I remember reading. I used to love going to the library. I went to Westport school, so after school I'd go to the Westport library, and
Hmm.
I loved reading the books on ghosts, there, the supernatural stuff, and the
Hmm.
UFOs, and so I remember reading about, I think it was called a doppelganger, like this idea of a doppelganger, and this idea of, like, if you or someone else sees a ghost of you as you're still living, it means you're going to die soon.
Mm.
So this concept was something that always stuck with me, and I
Yeah.
I said it's time to make, put this to a movie, put this
Hmm.
to I could say put it to film, but it wasn't done on film, it was digital. But I was like, this there's a story that has to be told here.
Yeah.
So I got together with my friend Neil and his fiance at the time, Tui, and a few other people. And we just, my stepmother helped. My grandmother bought everyone snacks for the night. So she contributed. And we just put this together very quickly. I mean,
Nice.
when I'm filming, especially filming my shorts, I know I have X amount of time. So what I tend to do is I write a script, and I print it out. Instead of printing it out vertically, I print it out horizontally, so that the script is in the middle. And
Mm.
then off to the side, I'll put in my thumbnail storyboards. So
Mm.
I sketch everything out. And then on the other side, I'll put either notes. Sometimes I'll even put like times, like,
Yeah.
okay, I want to film this shot in 20 minutes. We got 20 minutes for this shot.
Wow.
So in doing all of that, it sort of helps me plan. And then,
Yeah.
hey, if we have to cut a shot, we're running out of time, we have to cut a shot. Well, what shot do we cut out? So everything is
Right.
it's planned.
Planned. Yeah.
But I also like to give a cushion, a time cushion for improvisation, either
Hmm.
by the actors or by crew, or like, okay, well, we have this covered. What can we do with this? What do
Right.
you think? What do you think?
Yeah.
And you've worked with me before, so like I'm not very dictatorial. I don't, you
No.
know.
No, you're very easygoing. You're very trusting as a director, which is nice.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's like I go in with a vision, but you might have an amazing idea
Yep.
that takes that vision and goes further. So
Yeah.
I learned that with you in the cast and crew of Mutilation early on, luckily.
Yeah.
Um, so we did that with From the Window, and it was just an amazing experience, and
Yeah.
put it together very quick. And yeah, it premiered a couple of festivals out in LA.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I didn't really push it as much in festivals because of time, and
Yeah.
and the promotion of getting films in festivals is like a job in itself.
Right.
So when you're
Right.
doing that, it's like, okay, you can't be writing, or you know
Yeah.
why. So the balance of time is always a it's always a tricky one.
Oh boy, do I know that. Yeah. So I had some questions about From the Window. So I'm going to be putting all of the links in the show notes
Mhm.
for Adam's shorts that he's been mentioning, and just so you can access all of them. They're all wonderful. From the Window, I had a question about because I noticed the 11:11 in
Mhm.
on the clock, and I was wondering if Us was a little bit of an inspiration because this was Doppelganger, or was this around the same time, or no? Oh, wow.
I couldn't tell you when Us came out.
It came out in 2018. I know it came out.
2018.
Yeah, it did. It came out in 2018.
Yeah, I
I just
eleven
wondered.
eleven is something that's gone back with me like years,
Yeah.
years. I
Yeah.
want to say mid 2000s.
Right.
And I just noticed it was odd. I just started noticing I'd see it a lot on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
I'd either see 11 past the hour, or
Yeah.
that time 11:11. And no matter where I was,
Yeah.
I'm not one of these people that checks my watch all the time, or the time.
Right.
Wherever I be out and about, and I'd look at the clock. It'd be 11 past the hour, it'd be 11:11,
Oh, wow.
and I was like, and it happened so often,
Mm-hmm.
and I would talk to my friends about it,
Yeah.
um, and they started seeing it, and so I had like half a dozen friends texting me when it
Mm-hmm.
turned 11:11. So it
Yeah.
was this interesting community, this 11:11 community.
That it's really wild because it was funny. I saw it and I was like, and it's the doppelganger thing, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if you get like inspired from Us. And that's the thing in Us is that she sees 11:11 because it's the four, family members, and I love
Right,
that. So and I think we talked about this on Danny's podcast was that Jordan Peele was inspired because of Mirror Image from the Twilight Zone to write Us. So I'm
right.
always fascinated. I agree about the doppelganger thing. I have a funny little side story. So
Yeah.
when I lived in New Bedford. I had my mom, she worked at an animal hospital and she had a good friend there. And her friend came into work and he was like, "Oh, why is Erin being stuck up?" And my mom's like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, I saw Erin out, and she didn't like I'm waving to her and I'm calling to her and she looked at me like I was crazy and she walked away and I was like, and my mom's like, "Oh, I don't know, I'll ask her." So she asked me and I'm like, "I didn't see him. What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Well, he swears he saw you." And then after that, there were multiple people that told me I have a doppelganger in New
Wow.
Bedford where I
Wow.
lived. And I'm like, I never saw her. And I was like, and you say that, and I go, oh my God, the thought that like I'm like, okay, maybe that is my other person. Like, if it's good I never saw her, right? Because that means you're gonna die if you see her. I'm like, I don't want to see her. And so, yeah, it's been that thing that stuck with me that I always think about that I go, I have a doppelganger somewhere in the world that multiple people have seen and they think is me. Like, that's how close she looks to me. So,
Yeah.
probably why I changed my hair
Yeah.
color and my hair length a lot because I'm like, I don't want to look like anybody. I don't want to. But yeah, yeah, I'm fascinated by that too.
Alberto and I have a slate. So that is we're thinking in terms of the next year or two and what we can pull off. I mean,
Mm,
just with our resources, because
yeah,
that's what it's about is I think focusing on what we can actually do, what we can
right.
actually pull off. So I'm sort of exploring that right now, exploring that as a feature
Nice.
and
Because
yeah,
it sort of leaves off on a bit of a cliffhanger. It sort
oh,
of
big
leaves,
time.
yeah, at the end. I mean, not a bit. It is a cliffhanger. So you want to see what happens at the end. I don't want to say too much so that if anybody listening wants to watch it, I don't want to spoil too much for them. But yeah, it does leave off like, oh, what's happening next? Yeah.
I love that, and I think that when films in general, when I walk away with questions, or it makes me think, I think that's always good cinema,
Yeah.
great cinema.
Yeah.
It's more interactive, and I,
Mm-hmm.
of course, with the Twilight Zone, I mean, every episode is like, oh, okay, we walk away thinking about it,
Right.
and I think that yeah, this concept lends a lot to some ideas, some interesting ideas, and ideas about mortality, and
Yeah.
just like we are literally all on ticking clocks. I mean, so it's like, but
Mhm.
what if all of a sudden we're like, okay, this is going to come sooner than I want to, and
Right.
is there anything I can do about it?
Right. I think
Yeah,
that was a concept that Rod Serling definitely thought about. We see that
mhm,
throughout the series. There were
yeah,
just all these like he really thought about death a lot. And
hmm,
he lost his father very young. His father was in his 50s when he passed away of a heart attack, much as
yeah,
Rod was. So
yeah,
he thought about death a lot. And I think he kind of felt that sort of Damocles kind of hovering over his head very much, throughout his life. So his work definitely imparted that, I feel. Um,
yeah.
so your work has been very much inspired by Twilight Zone. Can you tell me about the first time? Like, how did you get into Twilight Zone? Like, when was the first time you saw it? What are some of your favorite parts of it? What's your favorite episode? Tell me a little
Um,
bit.
well, it's interesting. Growing up, my father would be talking about different shows, and even as a kid, as a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s, I was very interested in what came before, like
Mm,
basically the history of television. So if it was an old TV show or an old movie, I was all ears.
hmm
So I'd hear him mention about this Twilight Zone, and it's like okay, well, it just kind of stuck in my head, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll see that one day. Same thing with Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
I heard about it as a young kid. My grandmother had a board game that belonged to my uncle, and I'm like, as a little kid, I'm like, what is this? What is this game?
Yeah.
And she, nonchalantly just said, oh yeah, it was a soap opera. It was on every day. I'm like, vampires and werewolves on every
For
day? Like,
real.
where is
Yeah.
this?
Plug right here. Go listen to Terror at Collinwood with our friend Danielle. She's an expert on Dark Shadows. We're both Dark Shadows fans. It's just the best. So yeah, best show.
Oh
One of the
yeah.
best.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So it was basically on my radar as a kid growing
Yeah.
up, and I think it was in high school. It ended up on one of the local channels. It might have been channel 64 or
Hmm.
56 or one of those,
Yeah.
and I watched it with my grandmother. And the first episode I saw was perchance of a dream.
Perchance
Yeah,
to Dream. Yeah.
perchance of a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wow,
That
just
one is like mind blowing. That
yeah,
one is a total, that episode is just, it's like a fever dream.
it
It's
is.
crazy. And there's not many like that in the series. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that episode is definitely memorable for it's just insanity
Oh,
for what
totally.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'd watch it every week on whatever station, and then we got Sci-Fi Network, and I think it was on Sci-Fi, and they'd have the
Hmm.
marathon, and every time I thought I'd seen all of them, it's like, oh no, I haven't seen this one, and
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one, and still to this day I haven't seen all of them. I told Gina, I said, I swear they keep making more, and that would be a Twilight Zone episode in itself.
I
You think
know.
you've seen all 100 episodes. Oh, there's actually 150.
There's more. There's
There's more.
more. I know. I felt the same way, like for a long time. So I saw it the first time as a kid the theme song, the second theme song, we're gonna get a little bit into that today, but the famous theme song, the doo 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 doo, that one scared me to death when I was a kid. It actually, and I kind of was afraid of the show, but then I was like very intrigued by it, and I had to watch it, and I started watching it, and I fell in love with it. And by the time I
Yeah.
was in high school, I was watching all the marathons and recording all the marathons and just loving the show. It was just became one of my, and it's still to this day, in my top favorites. So hence why I'm doing this segment on it because I love the show so much. It is a
Yeah.
favorite. And I love breaking it down because it's still so relevant and it's still so, we were talking about this before. It's just one of the most, one show that is totally relevant to today, made
Hmm.
in the early 60s, very late 50s. So
Yeah. And that's
yeah.
good storytelling. That's good
Hmm.
storytelling. You can
Yeah.
watch a show from 60, 70, or even 100 years ago, a movie 100 years ago,
Hmm.
and still be affected by it. I think
Absolutely.
and get
Yeah, that
something out of it.
so that means that you've written something timeless. And
Hmm.
that's really interesting. All
Yeah.
right. So we're gonna get a little bit into it now, and
Okay.
I'm gonna give a quick little blurb about how the Twilight Zone came to be, how we ended up getting the Twilight Zone. So Rod Serling wrote for radio, and he ended up writing a piece for Playhouse 90, which was kind of like a dramatic short show that they had on television. He wrote Requiem for a Heavyweight, and that was a 90-minute piece. And it ended up sweeping the Emmys in 1956. It was super popular. Everybody loved it. And Rod found very quickly that he got frustrated by the interference and censorship that he got from sponsors when he was writing. He really wanted his own show. So he really wanted to put something out there. One of the funny ones was that in something he had written, he said, got a match. One actor character said this to another one, and a lighter company was the sponsor, and they refused to let them put out got a match. They had to, like, he was things like that they
Oh.
were controlling his writing because of
Mhm.
the sponsorship. So he wanted a little bit more control. He wanted he would still need sponsors, obviously, but he didn't want that kind of back and forth where he was like privy to everything that the sponsors wanted.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how much there is. A lot of my information comes from our Bible, which is the Twilight Zone Companion by Mark
Hmm.
Scott Zickery. And and there are all these really funny stories about Rod and his writing and how these things were affecting it.
Hmm.
All right, so he ended up writing the time element and he sent it into CBS as a possible pilot for a new show. CBS did buy it, but they ended up shelving it and they didn't do anything with it. So he just kept writing and doing his thing and didn't worry about it. And what ended up happening was Desi Playhouse, which was owned by Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball, they had a Playhouse show on television. And the person that was producing at the time wanted to have a really cool new episode. And Rod, they knew him from Requiem for a Heavyweight, and they're like, oh, he wrote this piece and called The Time Element, and CBS had it. So he got it to produce for Desilu Playhouse. And it wasn't what they normally did on that show, but what ended up happening was like 300 people wrote in about how much they loved it. So they realized that Rod was this commodity. They were like, okay, he's a commodity. Like people love him. He won all these Emmys for Requiem for a Heavyweight. He has this piece that was so successful in Desilu Playhouse. CBS was like, we need to snatch him up. So they gave him an opportunity for a new show. Obviously, they couldn't use the time element because it had already been produced, so Rod had to write something new. So Rod wrote a piece called The Happy Place. And the basic premise of The Happy Place is that when people turn 60, they get carted off to the happy place where they basically get exterminated.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a little bit of a downer, it was just a skosh of a downer. So the CBS execs were like, I don't think we can start this as the pilot. So could you write? They were afraid to say, can you write? But he said, sure, because he was Rod Serling, he churned out. And that's where we ended up with the pilot episode of Twilight Zone, which is Where is Everybody? So that was kind of a thumbnail version of how we ended up with the Twilight Zone. So a little bit about Where is Everybody? So how I'm going to do this, I'm going to start with Rod's opening. So I'll read that. So the place is here, the time is now, and the journey into the shadows that we are about to watch could be our journey. Very telling. So this episode premiered October 2nd, 1959. It was directed by Robert Stevens, who also directed one season one episode called Walking Distance. I'm going to talk about where people showed up again, like directors and actors as well. The cinematography was by Joseph Lachelle, who also did Laura and Marty and The Apartment. So they definitely were going for a look. I want to talk to you a little bit about cinematography when we go forward, especially with this episode, because of how, honestly, how beautiful the cinematography is in Twilight Zone. It's
Yeah.
stunningly beautiful. And the score, the original score, was by Bernard Herrmann, who we know from Psycho and Citizen Kane and North by Northwest. And his original theme for Twilight Zone lasted through most of the first season before being replaced by the familiar theme by Marius Constant that we all do 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 do. There was this beautiful string piece that Bernard Herrmann wrote that was actually like through most of the first season. I forget where it stopped off, but it was through most of the first season. Um, Earl Hallman played Mike Ferris, who's in the majority of Where Is Everybody? He's the person that we see through most of it. He just passed away in November of 2024 at 96 years old. He was also known for Forbidden Planet, and this was his only episode of Twilight Zone. James Gregory plays the Air Force general. He was also the Confederate soldier in a third season episode called The Passers-By, which is a lovely one that takes place during the end of the Civil War. And Paul Langdon played the Doctor. He was in a fourth season episode called On Thursday We Leave for Home. He played George in that. So this was rehearsed and shot in 9 days on a $75,000 budget. It was dubbed, scored, and edited in 3 days, and it was sold to sponsors in 6 hours. It took 6 hours for them to buy it up. So originally, the narrator was Westbrook Van Voris, who's an actor, and he sounded too pompous. That's what they said. So everyone wanted a new narrator, and everybody but Rod Serling wanted Orson Welles. Because when you need a narrator, you'd get Orson Welles. I mean, because
Yeah.
that was the voice that was, everything. But he was too much money. It was the whole budget would have been blown on Orson Welles, basically. And Rod volunteered, and despite their misgivings at first, he was the perfect choice, obviously, because here we are with him. Because he was a writer. They're like, you're not an actor. You can't be a narrator, but he's perfect. So, all right, let's get a little bit into the episode, and I have questions for you, and we're going to talk about them. So, in the opening, we see him walking down a dirt road. He goes into a diner. There's coffee brewing, there's music playing, but he's alone, and we learn that he doesn't remember who he is. What are your thoughts on the opening of this episode? Like, what are your thoughts? Is that first little part where we figure out Mike like is walking into this place, nobody's around, and we know that he doesn't know who he is, and the dirt road and everything. What do you think?
Well, I think well, that line for one thing, that the place is here and the time is now. I was thinking last night as I watched it again. I watched it a couple of times last night, and it's like, what a way to begin a series, because that was the first the first
Yeah.
statement basically in the series from the narrator. And I think that that air of mystery, I mean, he hooks us right away. I mean,
Right.
he's coming in out of the fog, and it perfect establishing shot for the first episode,
Yeah.
and to bring us, into the rest of the show, how things
Mm-hmm.
are going to be, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like, and I think what's so interesting about this is I love that, we find out as it goes on how, at the end we find out how long he was in this solitary. And I find that dirt road opening so interesting in retrospect. When you think of it afterwards, you're like, how long has he just been by himself but not hallucinating? And like,
Right.
what was that catalyst? I'm always so interested in stasis. We talk about, like, I'm a theater major. It's a thing that, so stasis is like, for those of you listening who don't know, stasis is basically like when we see a play, like what, just before that, we're watching, like, stasis was the thing that was happening before we're getting into the action.
Hmm.
So I love those thoughts. I love thinking of those things, the things we don't, we have to take care of as writers, as their actors, as everything. We have to take care of those stasis moments, but also, like, I love thinking about them when they're not covered. And so my thoughts when I watch that episode are thinking of, like, what did Mike go through before? Like, what was he, how did he get to this point where he's now hallucinating hallucinating a town, hallucinating, and
Oh
then
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that fascinates me. I don't know about you, but that fascinates me.
Oh, same. I mean, there are questions right off the bat,
Right.
like you said, and I think that once again, that's good writing. Is like, hey, we wonder where he's coming from,
Hmm.
and then we start to wonder, where is he going? Like,
Right.
where is it going from here?
Hmm.
So I think that was a perfect way to begin that, and I was asking the same questions, and
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
I think as an artist you have to. Like, those are
Oh
the
yeah.
things, artists, we always are like, what is happening underneath all of this? No matter what we're looking at, whether it's a film or a TV show or a painting or anything, we're going, what was happening at this moment? When we're fascinated by something, we want to know everything about it. You have
Exactly.
to. You have to
Yeah.
stay hungry when you're an artist. Like, that's
Mhm.
like the prerequisite of everything, is you have to stay hungry and interested, because if you're not, then you're not gonna do
Yeah. And,
it.
and those pieces of work, I feel like they don't stick with us the same. I mean,
Right.
when a story is wrapped up in
Mhm.
a and just kind of leaving us like, oh, all right, well, that's how that ended. It was all spelled out, so we can move on to the next piece. It's like,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's funny, it's like when you really love something and then you can kind of, when they do revisit something, you're like, oh my God, we're going to see this moment. Oh my
Hmm.
God, we're going to see this thing happen that you maybe didn't take care of later, or you didn't think of before. And now all of a sudden you're excited to see how this thing led into this thing. They're doing
Yeah.
that a lot. They do that a lot now. They're like exploring, backstories. They're doing prequels. Welcome to Derry is one that's on right now. That's like that same kind of thing where we're seeing what happened previously to lead to where we are now. And they're making new things out of the original story. So they're fascinating to see because we know these bits, but then we get to learn more from someone's perspective.
And what's smart about Welcome to Derry is it has some familiar characters and some
Mhm.
familiar places, but then it has some new characters, like a fair amount of new characters. So we don't know what's going to happen to them. We
Right.
don't know. So
Yeah.
there's still that sense of mystery and suspense.
Yeah.
Because yeah, otherwise with the prequel, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I mean, how much can you worry about Indy? You know he's going to make it to Raiders. you
It's
know,
so true. We do know that. I
we do know. Yeah,
mean,
yeah. Oh, spoiler alert.
yeah, spoiler alert. This whole thing's a spoiler alert. Uh, okay, so next up, so Mike, after he leaves the diner, he looks through the town and he sees the mannequin in the car and he thinks she's a real person. And I find this moment so creepy and unsettling. And Earl Holliman carries this episode so well. I mean, acting is all reacting, and he only had himself the whole time. And I wonder, do you ever talk to yourself?
Once in a while,
Do
once in a
you?
while, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
talk to a few of me. I mean,
So
we.
do I. You answer yourself
Oh
too.
yeah,
Yeah, I do too.
yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Well, no, when I was little, I used to, I'd be in the van or the truck with my father, and I look over
Right.
at him, and he was doing this,
Yeah.
and I'd say, Dad, what are you doing? He wasn't talking. It was just like his
Yep.
lips were. He'd say, Oh, I'm having a board meeting. I'm like, like, oh, okay. So So yeah, so I find myself having the same board meetings.
At least he was never ousted by the board. That'd be the worst.
Right.
That means you're in a hospital after that.
It was a successful collaboration,
Right, right.
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I do.
yeah.
I do all the time. I talk to myself constantly. It's like it's a constant. I work from home and like my husband goes out to work and like I'm home all day and I'm literally like having full conversations with myself about everything, you know. And I think it's sort of I think to me it's a sign of an active mind. It's an interesting mind than a, you know, of course it becomes a problem if there's you live in your own world, but like
Oh yeah,
I think if
yeah,
you, I think it shows an active mind, an interested mind, and like a mind that's going in a good way. You know what I mean? As long as you're not running yourself into anxiety or anything like that. You know,
right.
yeah, I find it keeps me from anxiety, you know, and I have anxiety. So I find it keeps me away from that if I can have that
Yeah.
dialogue to myself. Yeah.
No, same. I mean,
Yeah.
all of the above. And watching this, actually, the second time I watched this last night, I was wondering to myself, like, I wonder if the main character only started doing that, like at the time the story, at the time of the episode, or
Right.
if it's something that he's always done, something
Hmm.
that he's always done, or is it something that he just started doing that because of his,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
what he was going through. Yeah. So
That's
no,
it.
it's
Yeah. I know.
interesting.
It is. That's definitely an interesting idea. You know, I
Mhm.
don't know. I mean, maybe he did just start doing that. Maybe it was his way of just coping with what was happening to him. So interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. So he goes into the phone booth and gets trapped for a moment. He looks through the phone book, sees all the names. So he knows there's people in the town. You know, and before, like, I guess he gets trapped in the phone booth and then he tries to get out and he finally gets out. And apparently this was based on a real thing that happened to Rod Serling. He was
Mhm.
at an airport, he heard the loudspeaker say that the flight was leaving and he tried to get out and he started screaming and like a man walked over and pushed it instead of pulling it. And I just thought that was like I loved that story so much. When I read that, I was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." Like that he and then he added that in of that moment. And even if you watch the episode, like Earl Holliman, his face, you know, Mike's face is like he's almost embarrassed. Like he looks around like because it was such a human moment of, you know, like when you think you see someone you know and you wave and then
Mhm.
it's not them.
Oh,
It's
I
like that
know.
awkward, like, oh, sorry. You know what I mean? I just love that. I love those human frailties that he added into it, you know. Yeah, it's there's something so lovely and human about that. And I think those are the important things of creating good characters, right?
Oh
Like
yeah,
is like you
yeah,
need all of those fun little quirks that we can all relate to, you know, like
hmm,
when you watch it. Yeah, so it is
yeah.
it's just a great moment.
Oh, totally,
Yeah.
totally. And mannequins are creepy too. So they
Oh God.
always,
Yeah.
they always add that. I remember shopping as a kid and being in the store with my mom and looking at them real closely. Like, are they going to move?
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
that was
We
another
got
great
we got an
Twilight.
episode coming up too.
Yeah, another great episode of
Oh
Twilight Zone, the
yeah.
department store.
Oh my
You know,
God. Yeah,
yeah.
with Anne Francis, one of my favorite actors of all time. Yeah,
Hmm.
that one is incredibly creepy. I always found mannequins very weird. I they wig me out. They're just I don't know. It's
Yeah.
human. It's any kind of like that uncanny valley of people like when they make things look like it's like ugh, you know. And definitely that scene is very very weird for that. And then you see all the mannequins in the background too after so it's like oh God, they're all watching him and oh, it's very creepy. Okay, so paranoia starts to set in on Mike. He sees the cigar burning and the cell door almost closes on him, like when he goes into the police station. And he wonders who's running the projector in the movie theater. He runs into the mirror. He sees the eyes watching him. And these scenes all ramp up the tension, you know? So, as a filmmaker, like, what do you think of the structure of the episode overall? Like the ramping of the tension? Like, what to you speak? What speaks to you in that episode about like how the tension gets ramped up?
Oh, I mean everything. I mean the cutting and then of course the performance. I mean Holloman's performance was just to carry most of the piece on his own.
Mm.
And it is. I mean, it is a little film. These episodes. I was curious how much the budget would be in 2025, and it would have been 835,000 for that episode.
Wow.
So,
That seems
so
kind
it
of cheap even for now, doesn't it? Like,
it does.
but
It does.
75 grand, that was how it's like crazy. 800. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Almost a million to make a 20, 4-minute show, 20,
I
I mean, it's
know, I
crazy.
know.
Yeah.
So I feel like all of the elements were in place,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels. I mean, of course, they broke the acts into where the commercial breaks would come in, and that
Yeah.
was sort of I guess the template for much of the series.
Yeah.
So you'd have that twist at the end of
Mm-hmm.
Act One, go to commercial.
Right.
A little different with the season with I think the 1 hour episodes. I don't know if it was a
Yeah.
full season, but
Season four. Yeah, season
season
four is all
four.
1 hour episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was a unique change, and I remember
Mm-hmm.
watching those as a kid, and I was still into them. I think I watched one. I want to say it was the one with Burgess Meredith as the devil. Was
Printer's
that a
Devil.
one?
Yep, Printer's Devil.
Yeah.
That's an hour long one. Yeah.
And I don't think I knew it was an hour.
Yeah.
So when I first watched it, I was like, oh, all right, thinking it was almost over, and
No.
no,
Yeah.
it
I know
works.
those are like one act plays.
One
I'm
act plays,
excited to
yeah.
get to season four too, because season four is just, it's so good. There's so many good ones. Our friend Danny is right in the middle of season four right now, and she keeps messaging me every time she watches a new one because they're so fun. Like season four is like, because you get a little bit more in the episode.
Hmm.
And I definitely, some of my favorite episodes from Twilight Zone are in that season. So
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah, 'cause they're long. They had more time, and they were able to kind of stretch them out a little longer. So they are like just a one act play, you
they
know?
are. They
Yeah,
are.
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. So we find out that at the end that he has been solitary to mimic a trip to space, and the doctor reveals that they can give him everything but companionship. So I wanted to talk to you about a little bit about what we talked about before about like COVID,
Hmm.
loneliness, the need for human contact, all that. So that's why this episode to me, it just resonates still to this day.
Hmm.
I mentioned before I teach college, and one of the things that I talked to the kids about was I was talking about the mimetic impulse, which is like the impulse to like mimic one another.
Hmm.
And I said to them, can you think of anything that you do that in? And they were naming some things off, but I said, like, what about TikTok videos? And they were like, and I said, how many dances did you all
Mm.
copy that you saw? And they were like, a lot. And I said, why do you think you did that? Did you, I said, what is that? And I go beyond, like, there's people that I've talked to that are like, oh, well, because, kids are like sheep. They'll just, I said, no, I don't think it is. I think it's not it's a human impulse, that we want to feel like we belong. We want to feel like we are connected to other people. And that is the thing that helps us to feel that way. So what do you think about that? Like, what do you think about that need for human contact that's touched upon in this episode?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And it's funny you say that because it goes back to my thought of like, oh, has he always talked to himself?
Mm,
Or did that emerge because of being in the situation and being isolated?
right.
So it's I mean 100%. And I feel like yeah, the pandemic really changed a lot of people.
Yeah.
Some for the positive and some not so positive, but it
Mm,
it uh it really changed. I know for me, it definitely prioritized things. I looked at everything in a different light, and because I was at home, I had the chance
right.
to reflect and to
Mm,
to think about all these, and I definitely missed a community, being
mm,
physically out with people and talking with people. So yeah, 100% miss that. But yeah, I feel like definitely this episode reflects an authentic loneliness. I
yeah.
mean, I mean, I bought it from frame one.
Mm-hmm.
His performance and everything.
Yeah.
It was very well done. And then when you get that community, spoiler alert, when you get that community at the end, you get all those soldiers together.
Right.
It's such a bleak. What they've been doing is so
Yeah.
I mean, I found it to be ugly. I guess they were testing him, but
Right. And they're watching him talking to himself. Like they
suffering.
know that whole
Yeah.
time they're watching, yeah, suffering, and they know that, I mean, and I know they're doing it as a test, and when they say to him, like we can provide you with anything, like, and I think of that during COVID, like you had books and we had, movies and we had, and it's funny to me like that, a lot of people are like, oh, art can be cut out of budgets. Art can be, and it's like, no, it can't. Like,
No.
look at how we were during COVID. What if we didn't have streaming services during COVID? We would have like lost our minds, you know?
Hmm.
We didn't have even like terrible stuff like Tiger King, you know, like we had all these like crazy things. But it's like we had all that and we needed that to amuse ourselves, you know, because if
Hmm.
we didn't have that, what would happen, you know? And
Yeah.
you know, I was lucky enough. You know, you're lucky. We both have partners. We both, you know, and
Yeah.
so we live with someone else, so we had a connection there. But I have friends that you know aren't. They're single and they were alone during COVID, and some of them were happier about it than others. You know, I think they were able to amuse themselves, but it definitely did leave a lasting impression. I think, and hopefully on some level made us a little bit more grateful for each other, you know,
Yeah.
and connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah, no, totally. And then you had the little kids that are trying to figure out what normal is, that had just started school, and it's like, okay, is this gonna, is this school like what we're doing now? I mean, is
I
this
know.
how
I
it's gonna
know. We're
be?
back on Zoom.
Back on Zoom.
It's just easy to meet now. That's the nice part. I'd love to have Adam in a, if I had a studio, I'd have Adam in a room with me.
Oh,
But yeah. You know, it's like, yeah, that's the hard part is that it's like you like kids, you know, kids had to go through all of that. And
no, it's not. I mean, it has its place. I mean, it definitely is. It can come in useful, but I think yeah, you have to definitely introduce that human interaction.
yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's
Hmm.
hard. I think it's hard to reverse that, especially when you do have younger people where that
Mm.
was,
Yeah.
if you had someone that was, think about with the math, if you were 4 or 5 and you were in the pandemic 3 years, that's half your life or over half your life.
Right.
So, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It can make
I
for an
know.
interesting story.
And Rod Serling knew about it, secretly knew about, you know, like Stephen King also said a funny thing, like when the whole thing, he said, I swear The Stand, I didn't know. I swear when I wrote The Stand, I didn't know this was going to happen. But, you know, as things you can see in the future, because, you know, when you're able to be a conduit in a way, you can kind of like figure out what's going to happen in the future. People are very similar, you know, and they stay the same. And unfortunately, we have like we have good human nature qualities and we have terrible human nature qualities. So,
Oh,
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I was brought up on science fiction, so
Hmm.
my father, even as a young kid, he was talking to me outside the box,
Mm,
and so when the pandemic happened, um, I kind of saw it play out as a script. I mean, I said, "Oh, we're going to do this next." Oh, okay, it happened because it was like it was in a way my dad prepared me without knowing that
yeah,
those days were coming, but
right.
no, fascinating time. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I know, I know. So as a fun little thing toward the end, there was Rod Serling had talked about this episode when he later on he felt like it didn't age well for him. I think he was very critical of his own work, and he
Yeah.
felt like it didn't age well. And one of the things that he had said that he had wished was that Mike, the character, had gone to the movie theater when he went and he ripped the ticket and put it in his own pocket, like he was the ticket taker and he was himself, you know. And then he put the ticket in his pocket, and then as they're carrying him out at the end, he goes in his pocket, and the ticket is in his pocket. So
Hmm.
he wanted to add that like, you know, supernatural quality to the end of
Yeah.
it. I thought that was really interesting. I was like, oh, that would have been fun, but I don't. I was like, I'm okay with the way it is. I like that. I think that's fun. He's the writer, so of course he had the right to like think, oh, I wish I had done this to make it a little bit more mystical or
Yeah.
whatever, you know. But I thought that was fun, but I was like, I do like the way it is anyway, because it's in his own mind, you know. But that was my
Yeah.
take on
Yeah.
it.
I mean, things like that can work either way. I mean,
Mm,
I know where the dead go, we have some very subtle supernatural things going on, and
mm,
we didn't want it to be overt, because
yeah.
I think ambiguity is what has us talking about these movies and shows so many years
Hmm.
later. So
Absolutely.
so I think that was it's one of those apples and oranges thing. It could have worked. Could
Yeah.
have.
And I think you probably agree too. You got to trust your audience. You've got to
Mhm.
like make sure that you know your audience is smart enough to figure it out on their own and they're going to figure their own version of it. They're going to
Mhm.
bring their own experiences and their own thoughts and feelings to what they're watching. So you have to
Yeah.
have that universality to it, and then also like trust them to not. I hate to be like slammed over the head as an audience member. I can't stand that. I like to go and
Yeah.
approach it up myself. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because in Where the Dead Go, we added a narration
Mm-hmm.
that was not in the original script, and because towards the end of production, we were able to work with Carlos Gallardo,
Mm.
the original mariachi from El Mariachi,
Yeah.
who produced El Mariachi, Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, right here
Right there.
on my shelf. Yeah, right there
We did
next.
we didn't talk about this, but you have a lot of inspiration in your work
Yeah.
from Robert Rodriguez and Mariachi and Kevin
Oh yeah.
Smith and Clerks. Like mutilation very much alluded to Clerks. Like I
Oh,
feel that
definitely.
you're yeah, I can feel that from there. So they've really inspired you a lot as
Oh,
well in your work. Yeah.
definitely, definitely. Clerks was a big one,
Mhm.
and then Scream was just coming out at the time, so it was sort of a weird mixta
It
of the
was
two.
it was it was a mixa. Oh my God, that was
Yeah,
your first mixa.
the first mixta. Yeah, but
Definitely. Yeah.
I had to mention Carlos because he was he really brought the movie home
Mm.
in so many ways, and in our story full circle because Alberto was originally inspired by El Mariachi, and I was inspired, and I watched the movie I don't know how many hundreds of times. So to get to work with him and have him act in our movie, have him narrate the movie was just. And then he drove to all the film festivals we were in, so he was just and
Yeah.
continues to be a supporter and a collaborator and just an amazing friend. So I
That's wonderful.
it's people like that that really they're sort of mentors that first inspire us without them knowing, and then they then they come on board and
Yeah.
really brought us full circle basically.
Hmm.
We'd studied the film, and so I
Yeah.
just I wanted to.
Sometimes you can meet your heroes. Sometimes
Yeah.
you can meet them and work with them. Yeah. And that's
Oh, totally.
awesome. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Amazing. All right, Adam. Well, it has been lovely to talk to you today about the very first episode about of the Twilight Zone and about your work. And I'm just as a reminder to the listeners that I'm going to put all the links for Adam's work in the show notes. Please check out all of the Cinemixta work. It's amazing.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
this I
yeah,
got
go
the
ahead.
t-shirt. Yeah.
Oh, see?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I'm rocking the Twilight Zone marathon
Oh,
t-shirt.
so cool.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Adam. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Hallowed Groundling. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and rate wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to follow Hallowed Groundling on all social media. Links are in the show notes. Until next time, stay spooky.